You are
That's just to
live.
attract attention. So here we are. Did we do anything last Monday?
We did not. Last Monday, you decided that you wanted to rethink our
Oh,
target audience,
yes, it was.
which we just talked about.
Yes, it was after my trip to
It
Rhythmia.
it was, but it was also because you had something else going on. You had something else going on, and so you're like, well, I'm going to have to cancel it for this reason. And really, it just seems like the universe just wants me to rethink this whole thing.
Breathe deep. Yeah, I don't remember. A lot of times I don't think of the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're getting a little focused now. So maybe you people that were concerned about some of the past topics may not be interested anymore, but that's okay. Maybe you're interested in what we have to say now. Yes.
Yeah.
So the title is, what did I say? Healing your body, mind, and spirit with psychedelics. Something like that.
I think that's what we agreed on. Yep.
Yeah, because we have some common interests in life.
Oh yeah.
And
Psychedelics was not actually one of the common interests that he had, but after going through
now it
arrhythmia,
is.
now he's like,
Yes.
wow, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about that driving over here too, because on the way home from the airport, my wife's son picked me up, and my
Yeah.
wife is a shaman. So telling her son about what I did, he was kind of like, whoa, because I went on an ayahuasca ceremony. And I said, it was kind of similar to what your mom does. And he goes, my mom doesn't do drugs. And to me, ayahuasca is not a drug, it's a medicine.
Yeah.
And it's a plant medicine that is naturally manufactured as opposed to some factory putting it together and putting a little capsule and saying, here,
Right.
pop yourself an ayahuasca.
Yeah, that brings up a really interesting topic that I bet you anything people will be interested in. In the psychedelic world right now, there's actually a lot of concern about that. So a lot of the research that's been done is being done on LSD and MDMA and things like that. Well, one of the reasons is that these synthetic manufactured ones, the dosage is always the same, always exact. You can measure it out. Boom. Helps with whenever you're doing studies, right? Because you have to have the dosage exactly right.
Sure.
So that's one of the ways that they do all the research. So all of the new research that's coming out is all about ketamine. It's all about MDMA. It's all about, LSD. It's all about these other things. But the most well-researched one that's out there is psilocybin. However, most of the research done on psilocybin is actually older research. The newer research on psilocybin is basically pictures of what it does to your brain and all kinds of amazing stuff like that, which is really fascinating. I just read a new article that came out last night. As a matter of fact, I was up at midnight and I was reading about it and I was like, oh, this is great. So,
well, the thing is that, yes,
yeah,
for studies, you can normalize the dosage,
right.
digitize it, we'll call it. And then your subjects are all sorts of different types of people. So you have to do a spectrum of subjects
Right.
to be able to get some kind of a baseline.
But it's a problem with psilocybin, right? And so there's
It's a problem with
twofold where this problem is, right? So one, psilocybin is natural, right?
Mhm.
So the only way to be able to gauge it is that they have to remove it from its natural constituent. So they'd have to extract it out of the mushroom, put it into pure psilocybin, or synthesize the psilocybin.
Yeah.
And then they can give you a dose where they just give you psilocybin, right? But as we have found with cannabis, and as we are finding with mushrooms, right, the compounds are way more complex than that because there's hundreds, if not thousands, of compounds that are unique to the cannabis plant, right?
Yes.
It's well over 1,000 compounds that they found at this point that are completely unique to the cannabis plant. And in mushrooms, they have no idea because there's just barely breaking the surface. And all of these compounds all work together to have a synergistic effect or an entourage effect, as it's called, in order to be able to bolster the health of the individual. So taking a whole mushroom is going to have a much more beneficial effect than taking a psilocybin pill. So the research that's being done isn't as effective in the psilocybin market if they're not doing whole mushroom. And most studies, if not, I think it's like 99% of the studies being done right now are not whole mushroom simply because of that one
Okay, so
restriction that I was telling you.
which of these
Because it
sides
varies.
do you fall on, or are you on both sides? I know,
I
right?
I am thoroughly interested in researching it as a whole and the scientific aspect of it, but I like the traditional usage of it. So to me, like, I like things being natural, but there are some synthetics that are out there like MDMA that are just absolutely amazingly helpful to people. So that is a big one out there. Another one that's big time that you kind of have to synthesize at this point is mescaline, for example, right? Or bufo, right? Bufo is a big one that they want to synthesize
Why
because
do you have to synthesize it?
because the frogs are becoming they're becoming endangered because people are going out there and harvesting these frogs so much that it's actually declining the population of the frogs
Why
severely.
are they killing the frog?
Worst case scenario, sometimes they do, but you're only supposed to milk the glands off of the frog. They take like a window pane. I probably shouldn't say this aspect on here. If anybody's interested in how that's done, there are plenty of other videos out there that you can go watch. But if I say this aspect, I don't want somebody to say, "Oh, they're teaching you how to manufacture drugs." I don't want to get busted for that. So
Yeah,
there you go. But yeah, so it's
exactly.
complicated, but basically they milk the frogs
Well,
in order to be able to do it.
personally, I just don't like the whole concept of synthesizing something. I think it should be done in its natural. I mean, they're doing
And
that.
that is the other area that was actually a big topic of all the people right now. They're
Well,
very concerned about that.
they've done that with food. They put
Hmm.
preservatives into this food so it lasts longer on the shelf. It isn't to make you feel better.
They do it with birth control pills. They take wild yams, they extract the hormones out of the wild yams because it's a bioidentical, right? It's a progesterone or an estrogen, one of the I can't remember which one. What? My wife's like progesterone, she knows. But yeah, so the wild yam, you can get it in a cream and you put it on, and it's like super helpful in like regulating hormones. But basically, in order to be able to make the birth control pill, what they did is they took this progesterone and then they added a little thing onto the end of the chemical structure of it so they could patent
Well, see,
the chemical structure of it, and then they give it to you.
that's Franken healing.
It is.
I
It
don't like that.
is.
I don't like that.
And it also
That's
causes a
not
ton
what
of
we're about.
problems.
It's not what we're about.
And it causes a ton of problems with the body
Well, of course it does.
because the pill, right, when you're taking the pill and it makes you think that you're pregnant, so you don't actually go through a full cycle. And in order to actually be able to have your total hormones and all of that to happen, you actually have to go through a full cycle. So there's a bunch of reasons why it
Let's
disrupts
get
you.
back into the
So
psychedelics.
back into the psychedelic stuff, yeah. So thank you for curving it back in. But that's why a lot of people are concerned. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, they're just pushing the synthetics because they want to patent it. They want to control the market. And I agree with that.
I do too.
I think that it's all about the money in a lot of
There's
ways.
another thing that I would like us to agree on is I'm not looking for recreational psychedelic experiences. I'm looking for health and wellness healing type psychedelic experience.
100%. I am not interested in like, oh, I shouldn't say I'm not interested. I have had in my past, in my youth, my very crazy youth, I have had many psychedelic experiences that were more bordering on recreational, right? Oh, hey, this sounds like a fun idea right now.
Yeah,
Let's
when
do
you're
this.
experiencing
And then
or
you're
experimenting.
experimenting, yeah, and you're learning a lot and you do that sort of thing. However, at this point in my life, I have really come to have a loving relationship with the psychedelic chemicals that are out there. And I fully believe that the best way of experiencing the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of the chemicals that are related to the psychedelic healing world. MDMA falls into that, even though it's not really a psychedelic. And it's amazing. Like, I think that they're so good for the healing that really we should look at them as a medication, and we really shouldn't look at them for anything else. It's a spiritual experience that makes us have this wonderful attachment and detachment to the universe.
Well, at Arrhythmia, there was also a lot of ancillary stuff like good eating and colonics and the saunas and jacuzzis
Hmm.
and healthy food and workshops, and there was all around all that kind of stuff. And amazing things happen. There was a guy that decided to quit drinking, and that was so he'd go back to his wife. There was a woman that was very upset at men, and she had some healing where she got to trust men again. She saw a lot of guys there that were
Hmm.
decent people. And there was another guy that came to Rhythmia because he was going through a divorce. And he said, I'm now going back a new man, and I'm going to remarry the woman that I originally married. So he's going to remarry his wife. That's pretty cool.
Hmm.
And there was another guy that he was an atheist, and he said, "No, no, no, nothing, nothing. This is all bullshit. I'm just sweating a lot. Nothing's happening to me." At the very end, he ended up breaking down, crying, and he had a father issue that was healed.
Yeah.
So amazing things happen for some reason. I mean, other video about it. Bizarre, weird
Hmm.
stuff happens, and some people think,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're on drugs. You're doing a high thing." Yeah, but I feel better. I feel a lot better, and I've had some
Right.
awakenings. And so I don't look at it as being a drug. It's more of a medicine, and it's not built by some big
Yeah.
pharma machine that's running pills down an assembly line so they can
Right.
start popping all this
Well,
crap.
that's the thing. Like, a lot of people who want to say, "Oh, it's just drugs. You're just experiencing something in your brain." I'm sorry, but the vast majority of us at this point, and I'm saying vast majority, I'm not even talking about just the mental health in this country, are on drugs all the time. They put drugs in our food. They put drugs in our water. They put drugs. We take drugs on purpose on a daily basis. We take caffeine. We take all kinds of stuff that causes physiological and mental changes all the time.
The big difference is some is synthetically grown or engineered, and others just like coffee
Yeah.
naturally comes out of the bean.
Right.
I don't know. Is there anybody that synthetically makes coffee? There's some of that weird mushroom coffee and stuff.
Oh, mushroom coffee is cool. My wife and I, we like mushroom coffee. It's not really coffee. It's basically they have chaga in it, and they have a few other things that
Okay.
are in it, and it basically has kind of a look of coffee. But
But
when you're drinking it, you're drinking the powder down and all of that. You just mix it all in. It's got
is
a
there a
wonderful
synthetic
flavor.
coffee? Is there I suppose like Nescafe or something?
I think
Freeze dried coffee?
I think that there is caffeine that might be synthetic, but not really coffee.
Yeah, I like the beans. You roast the beans, and you grind them up, and then you make coffee off the
Right.
ground up beans.
Well, I mean, they have synthetic tobacco, if you want to put it that way, because there's tons of synthetic nicotine that's out there. However, that all comes from a natural
And
source.
that's
So,
the thing
like,
with tobacco. They use the tobacco in ceremony and stuff, but then there's other people
it's
that
different tobacco too.
totally different tobacco, and it doesn't have cyanide in it.
Well, okay, so that's interesting that
I like the
that
good
you
stuff.
state that. So the majority of tobacco that's out there that we have now, that's not for ceremony, so the stuff that we actually actively get on a regular basis, if you go to the store, I do no longer smoke, so I should start with that. But it is, yeah, I haven't been smoking for 6 years.
Good
I
for you.
think I had my last cigarette like 6 years ago.
It's a nasty habit.
Yeah, it's an addictive habit. I've known people who were addicted to heroin that say it's harder to quit smoking. But anyways,
Okay.
back to what I was saying. So the tobacco that's out there, due to the regulations in our country, the way that you have to actually treat the tobacco is ridiculous. They have to actually spray a bunch of chemicals on the tobacco and in order to cure the tobacco. Whereas the old school way of curing the tobacco used to get all of the bad, harsh chemicals out of it because they would put it in these giant, huge, basically like a sweat lodge. And they would, it had natural wind that would go through it, and they would put them in these giant piles, and then they would flip them over, and they'd shuffle them, and they'd spin them, and everything else. And basically, what happened is that it would sweat. The heat would start to increase on the inside, like it was going to compost. But instead of letting it fully compost, they would mix it, and what would happen is that it would start letting off all of its ammonia and a few other chemicals too, but ammonia was one of the big ones. And so you start to get this really funky smell as they would start to turn it. And if you bleed off all the ammonia, then you're left with that nice tobacco smell that
Perfect.
people are really used to. That smells more like leather.
I just brought that cyanide thing up because I've seen it where it's actually in the ingredients. And when I was in Thailand,
Yeah.
their packs of cigarettes have like pictures of rotten lungs on the pack.
Mhm.
And you say, yeah, give me a couple of those. What the hell? I don't know. It's just bizarre to me. I mean, when I smoked when I was a kid, like 15. I
Yeah.
didn't inhale, and if I did inhale, I coughed. And I said, this ain't right. So I didn't get addicted to it, fortunately, because I guess I got common sense enough to say this ain't right. Why are you
Everybody I
choking
knew
on stuff?
smoked. Everybody I knew smoked.
Yeah, we used to
Everybody
put
around me
them, roll them up
smoked.
in your thing like Fonzie.
Yeah. I ended up joining like Sea Cadets at one point, which is basically like junior Navy because you're trained by military personnel and all this kind of stuff. And you're going on, it's basically like National Guard. You go like 1 week in a month and everything. But yeah, so we would go there, and then everybody there was smoking, and of course we were in uniform, so we looked like we were older than we were, and we had IDs to be able to buy stuff at the ComEx that looked like a military ID. So we'd go in there, and they didn't even look at the age. They're like, "Oh, you're in the military, you must be 18, right?"
Oh, yeah.
And so we get cigarettes. That was before they got wise to the fact
There's a
that they
flaw
had
in the
us there.
system.
That was before they got wise to that
What the hell's that?
system.
That's
Oh,
you.
that's my phone
That's you.
making noise. That is Madeline. If you want to call her wife, my wife happens to be in the background in our office here at Your Authentic Reflections today. So, but anyhow, so yeah, it's fascinating, like all of the crazy stuff that's been done to all of these natural products in the name of safety that has made it completely unsafe.
Well, that's a whole other thing. The whole government. It's weird that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Why?
Right.
How did that stuff mix up? It's really weird, but it's a regulatory thing. And why is alcohol and tobacco regulated?
I actually do know the
Because it's
history of that.
Well, but I don't need to know the history. It just doesn't make any sense that why are they regulating something like alcohol and tobacco? Because it's addictive, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it started out where they were just regulating alcohol and firearms and stuff like that due to the mob because of the roaring 20s whenever alcohol was illegal and all the bootleggers and everything else. So the mob was like running rampant. And so they tried very, very, very hard to go after
But that
them
was
by
the
creating
history.
their
It's
own
kind of
little
weird that it still
thing.
is that way. And they got the what do they call those when they're a local liquor store?
Yeah.
What do they call that? The liquor store is we got the municipal.
Yeah.
A municipal liquor store. What does that mean? That they're in control of all the profits from the city is profiting from all the people that are addicted to alcohol.
Yeah.
There's something screwed up with that. I would say heal these people, but they're not going to want to heal these people. They want to get them into more. I want to heal these people and get them off of all this stuff.
I agree. Yeah, it was so that's one of the things about psychedelics, and it's one of the more fascinating things about psychedelics is how you take these psychedelics and these so-called bad drugs like that they were all worried about in the past, right? That are now coming out to be like so amazing, right? They're finding that you give them to somebody who's highly addicted to something like alcohol, boom, it just turns it off.
That's what I'm hearing too, and like the PTSD stuff, and people that got traumatic situations and addictions of
Yeah,
all sorts of stuff. It heals it.
right.
So
And
that's what
that one's a little
intrigued me about it.
trickier.
The stories that I heard and the people that I witnessed go through it in a
Hmm.
week period. That's what intrigued me about it. I'm definitely not
Yeah,
a ayahuasca junkie where I want to go every month or anything like that.
I don't think there's very many
But
people who are like a junkie that have over ayahuasca.
well, there's some people that
I'm
just
sure
love
there's
to
a
do
people
it.
who do it a lot.
Yeah.
There are people who do it a lot. I mean, especially the people who end up being shamans. I mean, they're doing it constantly.
I want to put together, because like with my collaborative thing, I want to put together like a scholarship type project. So it has funds for people that can't afford to do something like that.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Yeah,
So things have changed from event planning to retreat planning.
yeah, yeah. I would love to start promoting retreats and about different healing experiences for people, and if people can't afford it, come up with a good way to have like scholarships for them.
Like a matching thing or something.
Yeah,
Because Rhythmia wasn't cheap. It was like $5,000.
right.
It's spendy.
Plus your plane flight, and then
That was another 1,000.
yeah, so it
But
probably
after that,
costs
it was
you,
done.
but it probably costs you a little over 6 grand to go, right?
About that, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably less than 6 grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't totaled it all up, but I just had to get the plane ticket, and then everything else was easy breezy. And I really like that. It takes a lot of the stress away from, should we go do this? Should we go do that? I don't know if we can
Yeah.
afford this. Maybe we could.
And I like the fact that it's a week long.
Yep. And it's also pretty regimented. It's got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I hate to do this right in the middle of our thing, but
It's
my
okay.
daughter keeps on calling and will not stop. Over.
He's going to go take care of business. He's got a family. He's got a whole herd. So.
Okay. All right. I'm back over here now. All right. That is very distracting whenever somebody keeps calling you over and over again. You're like, oh no, did somebody die? But I'm sure it's nothing like that.
If they
because,
did, they wouldn't be calling.
Well,
they'd be dead.
There are a few of them there.
If I get a call
yes.
from a dead person, I'm going to have concerns too.
I've been waiting for that phone call.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for that phone call from somebody who was dead. I think it would be great to get a phone call from somebody who I haven't seen in a long time who was
Well,
deceased.
you might experience that in a microdosing or a macrodosing.
Definitely
situation.
wouldn't experience that in a microdosing unless it was a dream.
Well, that's
I have wild enough dreams though.
I kind of sort of don't agree in that you can experience it in no dosing.
Yeah,
I don't
that
think
is
you
true.
need any.
That is true.
I don't think you need any kind of medicinal thing to have a spiritual. A good example is when I was in Bali.
Yeah.
I wasn't drinking anything. I wasn't doing anything. I was just there, and we were going to go out to dinner, and I had that out of body experience with that other person.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, you're completely correct on that. You absolutely do not need to be doing anything to have a spiritual experience. But I was talking about talking on the phone to somebody who was deceased.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never met anybody who talked on the phone to somebody who was deceased before.
Well, there was a guy at the at Rhythmia.
Yeah.
That he ended up having a friend, and the friend was a rock, and he took a picture of himself with the rock, but that was part of his experience, talking to the rock. It was a big rock.
That's awesome.
So there was no phone because rocks don't have phones.
Right. That's cool. Was he talking to the spirit of the rock, or was he talking to like?
I think the rock actually had a face.
Yeah.
Talk to it.
Nice. That's a cool experience.
Yeah. So
I
anything
mean,
that
I had
happens.
that. I had that. Or you were saying he had that experience while he was on medicine.
It was either it might have been after. There might have been after effects because that stuff happens. And at Rhythmia, you also do breathwork sessions and
Yeah.
yoga and stuff, and that brings stuff
Oh
back
yeah,
up.
yeah.
That brings other stuff back up.
I've
So
had more than one client tell me that after they had a full experience, typically if I'm gonna sit with somebody and do shamanic work or anything like that for somebody, typically I encourage them to go all the way because it's not every day that you're gonna have somebody actually do all that work for you.
what do you mean all the
So
way?
all the way to a level 5. I've explained the levels before to you, but just for a refresher, level 0 is I don't feel anything. Level 1 is basically I feel something in my body. Level 2 is if I close my eyes, I can see something maybe. Level 3 is if with eyes wide open, I'm seeing things. Level 4 is you begin to start experiencing like contradicting needs and kind of like, ego split. And then
Didn't
5.
you jump one?
Nope. I did 0, 1, 2,
Oh, you started at
3.
0. That's why I got mixed up.
Yep, 4. Yep, 4 is the ego split, and then 5 is what commonly people call ego death. However, I have explained this before on a podcast that I was on, and perhaps here. I don't think ego death is a great explanation for what you experience in those circumstances. I honestly believe that the better way to explain a level 5 is that you feel a complete oneness with the world around you,
Let me
with the
explain.
universe around you.
Let me explain what Rhythmia, how the Rhythmia did it,
Hmm.
and then maybe you'll see. You'll agree with that because they don't do it as ego death either, although they called it that as well, so that you can relate to it. They called it like there's a time when you have the split,
Yep.
and the split is separation from your soul, and
Yep.
your ego wants to protect you, so it separates from the soul to protect you.
Sure.
Like I had it figured out on the way over here. I can't remember what the situation was. I wonder if it'll come back later. But a childhood situation could mean like very almost nothing. Oh, I know what it was. The kid is playing with crayons right now over the
Yep.
wall, and his gift is to be an artist. But
Hmm.
the parents go, "What the hell's the matter with you writing all over the wall?" There's the split.
Sure.
So that might be the ego is protecting yourself. I'm going to not do that anymore. I'm going to go hide in my corner and I'm not going to be an artist because it's dangerous.
Okay.
So that might be, is that resonate?
It's not yes, but that is not talk. I think that we're talking about these um, Christmas tree. And like over
Sort of
as
euphoria
well.
kind of?
No, no, it's arousal, like it's your brain is just extremely active. So not only is it completely connected together, every single part of the brain talking to every single other part of the brain, including things like amygdala and your Abdullah Oblongata and all that kind of stuff that normally does not go blah, 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 and start talking with all kinds of other stuff, right? It's talking with things that it normally doesn't communicate with. But it's also very active at the same time. And that's why during the experience, they're saying that is why you're experiencing that endless ocean. You're experiencing this a oneness with the universe, this loss of self or this ego death that ends up happening. And
Okay.
they came up with a new term due to this study. The way they were doing is because they were saying what happens is psychedelic isn't really what's happening, because you're not really hallucinating in the same way that people commonly think of hallucinations happening.
Right.
You're just completely connected. They're actually calling it egotropic instead of, or yeah, it's egotropic. I'm pretty sure is the word that they used, and instead of psychotropic, an egotropic, because it puts you in a space where your ego becomes moldable
Is
again.
it sort of like you're actually getting along with your ego?
Not like you're getting along with your ego, but more like as you begin to sink back into the self, you can actually pick and choose how you redevelop yourself. So that's the reason why whenever people go in, they oftentimes come out with a nuanced difference of ego, a nuanced difference of self. Sometimes it's drastic, but most of the time it's more nuanced. It's
Well, I
something
suppose
subtle.
maybe getting along with your ego, where the ego is there to protect you, but you say, you know what, ego, why don't you just step
Take a
to the
back seat.
side?
Right. I'm in
I
charge.
got
You're
this.
not.
I got this. But not so demanding like that. You're actually friends.
Yeah.
You're not saying I'm in charge. Just say, why don't you just chill out for a while? Take a break.
Right.
Take a break. I'm gonna go explore over here. All right, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't suggest it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like that article was pretty interesting, and the reason why I have brought it up now twice is it is kind of a landmark study that they're doing, because nobody has done a study like that before. And specifically, the study is not, it's not a study like, hey, we're going to give people a bunch of stuff and then we're just going to figure out like where they go and we're going to like study the effects of this. It's more, they gave somebody a dosage, and then they had a bunch of other people. They gave a placebo, and then they put them all under an fMRI, and then they watched what happened in your brain. That was all. That's all that they did. They just wanted to see what happened in your brain, and they took imaging of it. And they've done this so far with DMT, and they've done it with LSD, but they've never done it with
Okay,
mushrooms.
you've used one word a really lot, so I'm gonna ask who that is.
Mhm.
Who is they?
The research medical establishment out there. So
All
like
of
as
them or any
they're,
of them or
well, I mean, I don't remember the person who was running the, it would help, I'm sure, if I remember the person who was running the,
it would, because I know that sometimes people just
yeah.
get grants for doing shit and they start coming up with stuff and they tinker around with this here and the other thing and take the money. And I've come to the conclusion that Kool-Aid in the strawberry flavor with milk is good for your walking system.
And in this case, it was the university in Utrecht in Germany.
There you go. The Germans.
Yeah.
It's always good to know who they is, because my brother once mentioned a thing about statistics. He said, if 50% of the car accidents are caused by drunk drivers and you eliminate the drunk drivers from the road, now 100% of the accidents are caused by sober drivers. That doesn't sound good, but it's true
Right.
statistic. So statistics can be,
Statistics are very manipulatable. Well, it's why I'm not talking about the statistics. I'm just talking about literally the image mapping and what they found on the image.
there's that
mapping.
they again.
So
You should do your own.
my own study on that.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Let's see if there's a grant for it. We got to do a real study.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Some equipment. Got to get some
I
equipment.
do actually enjoy doing things like studies, but I just say they as in the ephemeral they in this particular case because I don't remember the very specific people who ran the study.
I think it'd be good to know that. And it would be interesting to maybe do your own
Check out the
studies.
article.
If you enjoy
It's on my page.
if you enjoy doing those studies, it could be kind of cool to have your own studies that were actually
I would not mind actually some studies. There are certain studies I would absolutely love to do. I do not want to be the person who actually writes down all the information. No,
I don't.
I would rather hire the note taker.
I don't like even with internet marketing, they've got a thing called split tests, A/B tests.
Yeah.
I don't agree with them because you use a red button and a blue button, you see which one gets the juice.
Hmm.
That might be on Monday, but what about Wednesday?
Right.
And then that might be in the AM, but what about PM?
Right.
And then that might have been January 2023. What about January 2024? It changes all the time.
It does. It
So you
changes
can,
a lot.
if you're in real time doing that, you can adjust the volume and figure it out that way. But it changes.
Right. But and see, that's where what they would say is that's where it's no longer a sterile experiment, and really the study that you're doing
Well, that's
would
kind of what I
unfortunately
would say with
in peer reviews it would be destroyed is
where if
because
they
you're
use the
adjusting it.
synthetic measurable capsules for doing the study, and now you've got a spectrum of 100 people. That's spit in comparison to everybody on the planet.
Oh,
What
it
kind of
is.
study is that?
Well, it
You'd-
is. It
You'd
is.
have to have thousands, maybe 100,000 people taking the study,
Yeah.
and that might be kind of something, but still, it's not because
Right.
how many on the planet?
Right. Well, that's the reason why what I do whenever I'm actually looking at how people react on various different things like psilocybin and stuff like that. I don't just take my experiences. I don't just take experiences of people I've actually done things with or assisted in or anything like that before. Theoretically assisted in, mind you. I I actually go and I pour over tons and tons of trip reports on Earwood. I read them all because I personally have never had a bad trip. Yet I definitely know that they exist, and,
Well,
and I definitely prepare.
That
for
was
them.
something that was brought up. That was brought up at Rhythmia about a bad trip, and they were saying
Right.
that a bad trip is a good trip
Bad trips don't exist.
because
Yep.
you can learn something from it.
Right. That is one of the many arguments in the psychedelic world out there is bad trips don't exist because even in a bad trip, you've learned something and you have something that you can work on and you can move through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely a way that people do talk out there. And by bad trip, really what they just mean is that the trip itself seemed hostile. Sometimes people will experience like so some of the ones that I've read on Earwood, there was one particular person who all of a sudden there was these three voices that would shut up and they'd keep on telling them bad stuff about themselves. And there was three different voices that just kept on doing it. And then like various different things would start to move and take on their voices and would start to talk to them and they would tell them like a bunch of like awful things like you don't really exist.
And the
you're
person
stuck on yourself.
did they have a miracle? Did they have a kind of revelation out of it? Or are they still
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why it's not really a bad trip, but it's scary. It's scary.
right?
And that's how most people have a marker of a bad trip is that people will say like, "Oh, it was really scary. That's a quote unquote bad trip." But it's not really the thing out there.
No.
So there was one bad trip I read about this in a trip report where this person ends up taking a dosage and they had the person who was sitting for them also took a dosage. Dumb. I mean, unless they're like a shaman who like really
Why
knows what
would
they're
someone
doing
do
and
that?
everything else.
That's like a what do they call that? Designated driver drinking.
Right, right. And they had like this weird psychosis end up happening minutes, like we're talking like 6 minutes after they went in, they started panicking. And within 30 minutes in, they felt like they were going to die. But they weren't just feeling like they were going to die. They were convinced that unless they went to the hospital right that minute, that they were going to die. So they told the person that was sitting with them and was obviously doing it too. Oh, I feel like I'm going to die. And they're just like, you're just high. Stop that. You're okay. You're going to be fine. You're just high. And of course, the person's like, no, I'm actually going to die. And then so they jumped out a window that was closed. So got cut up by the window, ran down a street, started screaming at everybody in the middle of an intersection that they were going to die and they
Okay, new
needed to go to the
topic.
hospital.
That's why you should not go to a place that doesn't know what the hell they're doing and has some knucklehead that's sitting with you doing this stuff too.
100%. So my point is that bad trips do exist. That
wasn't
bad.
That wasn't a bad.
That was bad
That
because
wasn't the
somebody
trip that
didn't
was
know how to
bad.
help them.
That wasn't a trip that was bad. It was a bad sitter.
That
was bad.
was absolutely bad all around.
But
That
about
was
the concept of dying, my new friend Ben that was down with me in Rhythmia, he thought that the whole Colombian cartel had taken over this complex.
yeah.
And he was literally scared for his life that he was going to get caught. So he was hiding.
Now, see, whenever I'm working with somebody, I always warn them about that. I warn them about not the paranoia, not believing that everybody's a
Warn them
cartel,
about the Colombian
about
cartel.
death. I warn them about that. I warn them like, look, you're probably going to feel like you're going to die. Just realize that at one point during it, at some point during it, if this is your first time you've ever gone this far, there probably is going to come a point where you're like, oh my God, I'm never coming back. I'm going to die. It's okay. And I tell them that's okay. It's to be expected. So that way, if you get to that point, you know to just breathe through it. If you're feeling like you're having a heart problem or something specific, I can check you. It's totally okay. I will help you. You're all right. But otherwise, like, just realize going in, this is part of the experience. And just realize that it's going to be okay. So that way they're prepped. And if you prep somebody, if you prep them with a lot of that kind of stuff, then usually they're more docile
And they know
once
what to
they
look
get to
for.
that point. And you can talk them through and remind them of breathing techniques. You can bring them back to center, and you can help them work through. Change the music, maybe turn off the music completely, maybe turn on something pleasant, but something needs to shift, something needs to change. And a lot of times, somebody needs to be grounded. That's really what it is. You just need to ground them out.
That's the other thing about Rhythmia is there's people, I mean, the whole room, there's people all around that were there to help, and they come and they'd ask you and stuff. And I fell asleep for a while, and a guy taps me on the shoulder. You're snoring. Oh, sorry.
I had that happen to me.
There's always people there to help you. So
yeah, my second ayahuasca trip, I had that happen to me. I fell asleep. So they give you the dose. You always start, like the place I went to, they always start at night. And so what happened is basically at sundown, we all started the ritual and everything else. And I took the dose, and then you go into 30 minutes of meditation. And that's the way they did it at this place. So they did 30 minutes of meditation. And then the end of the meditation is marked by the beginning of the music. So during that 30 minutes of meditation, they ask you to be quiet and they ask you to stay in your place, right? Unless you're having a problem and you need some attention, right? So they ask for you to be quiet and stay in your spot, right? For during the first 30 minutes, almost nobody has any reaction. Like that's very minimalistic type of reaction that you're going to have in that time frame. And during that 30 minutes, as they were going into the meditation, they're going through this whole chant. They're doing all of that. And next thing I know, I'm getting tapped. And I'm still hearing everything going on. But I didn't realize that my body had fallen asleep. And they tap me, and they're like, yeah, I'm like, sorry.
it's a weird world.
Yeah. Because I was still hearing everything going on. So I had no idea that I was out. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Well, I know on my third session, that was the one where I experienced beauty, and I was just enjoying it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was sleeping or anything. I was just chilling.
That's awesome.
There was that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Your
Nothing
DMT
dramatic.
entity experience was kind of cool too.
It was. I mean, some people think, "Oh, you're seeing things. You're crazy," but it's to me, it felt like they were entities that were helping out. They
Yeah.
were there helping out on a different level, a different plane.
Hmm.
Sounds weird. Sounds tinfoil hat kind of stuff, but
I mean, it does, but if somebody never experiences it, they have no idea
but
what you're talking about. They're just like, "Oh, you guys are crazy."
my logical brain was able to analyze it with the concept of light spectrums and sound spectrums,
Yeah.
which I believe in. Even some scientists believe that there's like ultraviolet light that you can't see.
Yeah.
So people will agree with that. And if I can't see it, and then all of a sudden I can, I must be experiencing a bigger spectrum,
Yeah.
right?
Well, what time are we at? How are we
I,
doing
I
on
think we're
time?
about done. It's 5:49.
5:49. Okay, so
10
we
to
got about
6.
10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, I would just like to remind everybody that, one of the reasons why we do this is to bring attention to the stuff that we do and, just, have a conversation around the kind of work that we enjoy doing. Um,
Let's
Brad enjoys connecting people, and he really enjoys helping people go through these spiritual changes and these spiritual shifts in their
let's
life.
let's spend these last minutes talking about each other's stuff, what we do.
Yeah,
So let me ask you some questions about what you got going on with. I'm assuming that the focus is microshift.
microshift. Yeah,
MyCoShift.com.
yep,
Microshift.
yep.
And
You can
what does
also
that
find
what
me on
does that
Facebook.
come from? The word myco.
Mycology and shift, like mental shift.
Mhm. What's
And
mycology?
mycology is the study of mushrooms.
Okay, so it's mostly focused on the mushroom experience.
No, it's really not. So myco,
Of
like
course.
micro, right? So it's just a play on words because microdosing. So that's actually a big thing that I talk to people about is about microdosing. Because
Mhm.
if people don't want to go all the way in, you do not need to go all the way in to experience the healing benefits of a psychedelic. If you need that full ego shift, if you need that, like that blast to be reset things in your brain, like you're having like major depression or something like that, maybe you want to go all the way in. But if you're afraid of that, you don't have to go all the way in to be able to gain the benefits. So the microdosing, I talk about that a lot. And because it's microdosing, I was thinking micro shift. And then basically some of that stuff was already taken.
Okay.
So I looked at it and it was myco, like mycology shift.
Would you say that the mushroom experience is something you have the most knowledge in?
Yeah, I would say probably. I would say that is an area that I have the most amount of knowledge. Maybe not. I would say I have an equal amount of experience with that as maybe MDMA or LSD. Like I definitely have a lot of experience in those areas.
And
But yeah.
so people know you're not actually creating the ceremonies. You're helping people that are thinking about doing the ceremony. So you're not doing anything illegal or anything like that. You're
Well, I mean, I can do ceremonies for somebody and stuff like that, but yeah, just for legal reasons in the current space of the world,
so
I,
you
I
may
can't I can't provide the medicine myself.
so as an example, say I mean just out of the sky, because that's the way I operate. All of a sudden you have this client that wants to go do the ayahuasca experience, but they're scared. They don't want to go alone. You would then, as part of your fee, you would escort them down to some place like Rhythmia and maybe sit with them or work with them so they're not so scared all
Or
by
in their own
themselves.
space,
Mhm.
or maybe in a group setting if they want to do it with several other people. I
Or if
mean,
there was a thing going on in
yeah.
Costa Rica or Peru or what I'm getting
Yeah.
at is you'd travel if someone wanted
Oh yeah,
a
100%. I would totally
companion.
travel. Yeah.
Because maybe somebody's going, you know, my wife doesn't want me to do this, or my husband doesn't want me to do this. Would you come with me? Because I'm scared. I don't want. If I went all by myself, I didn't know nothing.
Right. Or maybe I would, you know, that's another service that I could provide, is to talking to their significant other or their parents or cousin or whoever it is that may be a naysayer. And I can point out all the research on what it is that they're doing and
Okay.
why they're doing it. And I can let them know that, like, you know, it's safe. It's very safe. There's a lot of information that I've packed in over the many years in my head that I am happy to pour out of my head for somebody if they would
Got
like
it.
to see it.
So the
So,
website is MycoShift, MYCO
yep.
shift.com. Got it.
And it's in a 15-minute you know, review and session with me, just to talk about if it's like the right thing for you, and if I feel that it's the right thing for you. So in other words, you know, we get to pick each other. That 15-minute session is free.
So you can dip your toe in the water and it won't cost you a penny.
You can ask me questions and it won't
Good
cost you a
enough.
penny. Yep.
Okay, now you can ask me questions. What I'm looking to do is I've got this thing called the Synergy Collaborative. I had it in place when I was in the event industry. My thing was connecting event planners with event suppliers. And I'm tired of that business because I've been in it too long. So now I'm doing it for heart-centered, conscious people that are looking to experience spiritual enlightenment and physical, mental, and healthy healing stuff.
Yeah. But you also do it for business professionals a little, don't you?
Well, everybody's everybody's.
I know it's not your target anymore.
That's fine if
but
they're a business professional and they want to be it. But the Synergy Collaborative, a lot of people don't understand it because it's really simple, but it's I've never even heard of mushrooms. Hey, I understand that, but it's really simple.
It's very simple.
So the collaborative is it's Synergy Collaborative. Synergy, which is synchronized energy of multiple people working on a common goal. And the collaborative part is I don't know competition. Oh, it just faded out there. I just saw the thing flicker. I must have said something good. Collaboration, working together as opposed to competing, doesn't make any sense. It just did it again.
You said competition doesn't make any sense, and then it faded on you, huh?
Competition doesn't make any sense.
I totally did it.
Weird.
Yep.